This is The Future Of, where experts share their vision of the future and how their work is helping shape it for the better.
I'm David Blaney. From design to merchandising, the fashion industry is undergoing rapid change in response to market demand for sustainability, wearable technology and digital design. To discuss this topic, with us today is the head of the fashion program at Curtin University, Dr Anne Farren. Thanks for coming in today, Anne.
Well, thanks for the invitation, David. I'm really pleased to be here.
And so, Anne, what is streetwear going to look like in 20 years' time?
I think it's a really interesting question. I mean, there's probably quite a few directions it could take. One of the interesting changes that I think has happened over the last 20 years is that people are now determining what they wear to a much greater extent. And it's connecting back to their identity and who they want to be seen as, what kind of people they want to belong to, you know, their networks or their subcultures. But also I think technology is coming into play in the fact that we carry a phone around. Like how much longer are we going to be happy just to carry the phone because we have it on us all the time and we're still physically hanging on to this? Are we going to come to a point where we can integrate that technology into garment? The big issue has been around washability of that technology. That's the main problem at the moment. Or are we going to see people with this technology integrated into their bodies?
What exactly is, you've alluded to smart fashion there, what exactly is smart fashion? Is that like a microchip in my shirt telling me when to wash it or something like that? Or how does that replace a mobile phone?
Well, that's where it can be. And now that you've got flexible materials for the screen element, you've got the technology getting smaller and smaller. And as I said, it's the durability of the technology. Can it be washed if you put it embedded in clothes? And even that's becoming resolved. Or alternately, it'll get to a point where the technologies that are in the nanotechnology that's in the fabric might mean you don't have to wash the garment. So then it becomes a non-issue. You can just wipe it down maybe. So surfaces and changing the way the garment is managed. And if it's going to last longer, which is what we can cross over then into sustainability, it's much better if that garment is seen to be a longer term investment, that you wear it a lot longer, it's more durable, it functions and replaces having to carry a phone around or carry other technologies or connection technologies. Your interface could be quite different. So yeah, it's an interesting prospect, but it has been like 20 years that this has been on the table of thinking. People have thought about the possibilities of having the technology embedded in garment or different technologies in our communication technologies. We've seen Google Glasses, wearable elements. So my preference is for the wearability to be within the garment itself, not just an add-on wearable technology, which is things like a phone, glasses. And so I don't know, where that's going to take us, but people are interested in it. My interest is in making sure that it works for the wearer, not that it's just gimmick-based technology.
So that could mean that, for example, I could have some sportswear that connects to my Strava, for example, so I don't have to carry a phone with me when I go running or cycling, for example. Yeah,
it would mean that it's totally on your body rather than having to have a separate digital device. I'm not actually very au fait with the technology itself, just the possibilities of it and the dialogue around it. I mean, there's been some really cool garments that have been made that pretty much function like a billboard. So they have an image that changes on the garment. And there's been research into how garments can have integrated technology that will help in terms of health and well-being. So it might provide an opportunity for the garment to administer some massage or, protection elements to it. So I think that the possibilities are huge, but there are still some fine-tuning.
So then it's more than just mere textiles and cotton?
Oh, totally. You're talking about, fibres now that carry the data can actually be woven, they're created at a level where they can be woven, so they can be fully integrated into the cloth, and that's already there. Levi have done that. So they've actually woven it into the jeans. It's not a commercial product, but it's it's there, it's being produced by companies.
Are the days of fast fashion, of this rapid catwalk to storefront, are those days numbered, and are our demands changing?
I hope so. That's my vision. But it's a really difficult question because it's about accessibility. You know, I mean, certain people don't have the resources to spend a lot on garment, or they don't choose not to. That's not their priority in life. However, let's say, what if the garment, if you know a garment's going to last longer, hopefully you would think, okay, I can spend more on that because I get still the same value out of it. The problem with a cheap product is you also need to think about its whole life cycle and how it's been produced. Like, can't comment on how much your t-shirt was, but if you're buying a really cheap product, what was the person who made that product paid? How was that fibre grown? Is in the whole supply chain and production cycle, is there a fair and equitable, is it fair and equitable for everybody concerned? And this is what has changed in recent years, and especially with the Rana Plaza crisis. That meant everyone's attention was focused on what has happened, whereas before no one really worried or thought about it.
Oh, and just for context, could you fill us in on what the...
Well, there were about 1,000 workers in this factory died because the building collapsed, and that meant that you had just international focus on it, and there were major companies that were using these factories, and companies, I don't know for sure if it was H&M, but companies that do support the fast fashion industry or are integrated into the fast fashion industry, they were using these companies. The companies were not looking after their staff, and obviously the building was under code because it collapsed, killed so many people. They then didn't have the resources to look after the families that were impacted by that. And it was massive media coverage of it, which I think was a great, I mean, it's a hugely sad scenario. You don't want that to happen. The good that came out of it was, though, that there was international focus on the issue of what is happening for you to have that cheap t-shirt, what's happening behind it.
That's actually out of curiosity. Let's see. 100% cotton made in China. So
we can say things like, it's 100% cotton, that's great. The
pocket's made of polyester and cotton.
But even, it's really hard. You have to look at the whole life cycle. Like, where were pesticides used for that production of that cotton? Did they have the water there, or was the water creating an issue to source the water to grow cotton? Because cotton takes a lot of water. So you're going right from the production of the fibre through to the manufacture. Then the fibre gets into a yarn. It's knitted. It says it's made in China. We don't know where the actual fabric was knitted, but we know it probably was knitted in China. Then were those people paid correctly or treated properly in their workplace? I feel like saying, so how much was your shirt?
It was a gift, actually, so it cost me nothing.
Now you don't know. But I'm harking back to the fact that you said it's Kmart.
I don't think this was... Oh, no, but I have many Kmart shirts.
Oh, right. Sorry, my mistake. That does look a little bit nicer.
Which bears a toll on my soul, no doubt. But this was a gift.
Yeah.
I don't know where this is from.
So, I think you opened the door on that one, suggesting that maybe I just put two things together. But,
no, that's okay.
Yeah, so when we have cheap products, I think it's, as consumers, we need to be thinking about those issues around it. And, I mean, I think if you...
Even with expensive products, though, they can have the same issues.
Oh, yeah, same issues can be there. And it's really, you're paying because it's the brand. So now that we have a much stronger focus on sustainability, and also since the concept of circular economy came in, now we've got the concept of circular fashion, and that's what I was talking about in terms of understanding and thinking about the whole life cycle of that product, and taking responsibility before it, and think about it. I mean, when in the war years people were challenged, the resources just weren't there. Fabric wasn't available. My mother's talked about making coats out of blankets. People repaired things in the 60s. I still remember as a kid, people repaired socks, they repaired garments. And I think it's coming back now. There's a really interesting aesthetic around repair, mend, repair, showing something of the life cycle of this garment, that you have an imprint on it. There's actually a really gorgeous tradition in Japan called boro, where they recycle fabrics and stitch together, and it's the workers that did it, again out of necessity. But you get this beautiful cloth that's made out of different indigos. They show the different tone of the garment is related, or different patches relates to the age of different pieces of cloth. Where have those pieces of cloth come from? It's almost like patching of someone's life is evident within the cloth of that garment.
How do we as consumers know whether the products that we're buying, the clothes and other accessories, how do we know that they've been made ethically?
There are organisations now that will actually give endorsement. You have to prove, there's a lot of process in proving that it's ethically produced, and so you can get a badge or a branding that says this is ethically produced product. So there's more and more organisations that are facilitating that endorsement, to say that, in the same way we have branding, this is Australian made, you get the kangaroo. So I think they're great. And there's now, I don't know that they provide branding, but a very good advocacy organisation called Redress, that is operating around the world, that also is really trying to work with companies, large companies like H&M, the fast fashion sector, to encourage them to do things like recycling, like put recycle bins in your shop or your different stores. And they then have an arrangement now where they will deliver those back to Redress, so that they then do a recycling project. They're an NGO, so they're not profiteering from it, and they're just trying to work with the organisations in order to change practices, change community attitudes, change consumer attitudes. And what I'm finding really positive is that young designers now can see there's a window of opportunity for them as the consumer becomes more aware of these issues. They're prepared to pay more for a handmade object. So a small run, and that's great for our young designers in Australia. We don't have the mass industry or the mass market or the fast. We sort of have our mini little fast fashion industry, but it's nothing like the large, massive international companies. So for me, I see this window where it means that as a small producer, you can make a quality product that is going to cost more, but it hopefully is valued by the consumer sufficiently that they will say, yeah, I'll buy this and I'll keep this for 10 years and I'll wear it, or I'll hand it on to someone else to wear. And there are initiatives where people will have garment swaps and all sorts of marketplaces now for the retailing, if you like, of and direct sales by the maker. So makers markets, they actually really are helping the resurgence of makers markets, and yeah, it's great.
Statistically, how long, not this exact shirt, but statistically, how long am I going to have this shirt before it ends up in landfill?
That depends on you, to a great extent.
Let's say the average person.
I actually don't know the stats on that. But if we take the fashion cycle, a high percentage of it will, yes. That's the unfortunate scenario that we have. So a lot does depend on you as a consumer. I mean, I don't know about your practice, but I have T-shirts in my wardrobe that are 10 years old. They're getting thin and I'm very sad because I love them. So I'm that person that hangs on to it and will be really sad when I just have to do something like put it in the recycle bin or tear it up and turn it. It'll probably be at the point where I'll tear it up and turn it into rag and use it in the house. because I still will not want to part with it. So I have this fragment of it being a rag. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit different to other people, but increasingly I see in our students that they are adopting it. We've got, I'd say, about 5 of our graduate group who are very committed to sustainable practices in their own collection, and they will continue and maintain those ethics and values in their own practice. I can see that. So I'm buoyed by that. I think it's a really positive change, and there is such focus on it as an issue that comes from it not just being about fashion. It's a world consideration for everything, almost everything we do now. We must think about it because we're really on a precipice where we need to change. Everything needs to change if we're going to continue.
Now, I interrupted you a little bit earlier. You were talking about the fashion life cycle. How long does the fashion life cycle go for?
Well, fast fashion, it's very fast.
Hence the name, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, some companies are turning over on it like up to 12 cycles in a year. So they will...
That's one a month.
Yep. That means they're producing, selling, changing the design, producing, selling. That's they want that kind of turnover. And it's rapidly changing, so it's like, oh, well, you've got to get next month's look. But I find that crazy. And this is where if you decide how you want to look, then you're not driven by this cycle that is determined by marketing people. It's not, I don't know.
We're deciding for ourselves what we want to wear, not what some trend is.
Yeah,
is
so it's not
demanding
trend driven, and that whole trend driven cycle is about marketing. It's about creating consumption. It's excessive consumption. That's what these companies that are about fast fashion are all about. Their survival is based on mass consumption, overconsumption, wasteful consumption. It's just, to me, it's obscene. It's really a strange thing. Obviously, as a young person, you do want to fit in, and you think, I need to dress a certain way to fit in. But if we can change people's attitudes to say, okay, you want to fit in because you want to look like you are a good consumer and not and have the values of a good consumer, a caring consumer, then that's the sort of change we need, that people's value system changes, and it's not just driven because I need to look a certain way in order to fit in. It's actually about it being almost, it's really, you'd be challenged if you're wearing something that looks like it's fast fashion and brand new. Maybe that'll be the change, the shift. You'll need to look like your garments have been worn and pre-worn rather than looking like it's all pristine and new, which is I know it's going to be a difficult one, but because it flips the whole ethics that we have now, or the value system that we have now. It's all about looking new and pristine and constant change. Like I've noticed, even if we use things like the royals as an example, that it used to be that it was a horror that a royal would wear the same garment again or the outfit again. Now it's seen to be great. Kate is wearing this outfit, and you even see it in the media saying these are 4 different occasions that she's worn the same dress with a little bit of restyling. And I'm thinking, great. I don't know that that's really going to make a huge difference, but to me it does indicate a shift in our value system about garment and how we dress, why are we dressing a certain way. And
it sets a good example as well.
I think so, yeah. And the interesting thing as well is that Vogue Australia has recently appointed a sustainable fashion editor. I mean, and Vogue really I would put them in more supporting of a fast fashion industry. So what to me that indicates as well is that there is quite a significant shift in even that mainstream fashion space. And Claire Press has written a couple of books on sustainable fashion, and she's their editor, and works with redress in Hong Kong as well. So, yeah.
And fast fashion, there's also, it's not just pitfalls in terms of the effect of the consumption itself. There's also an effect for the designers, isn't there? Because fashion isn't protected in the same way that a movie or a book is, isn't it?
as a teacher, as a lecturer at Curtin, we apply the same principles of copyright. But I have to admit that in the industry it is still quite prevalent that there's copying. And unfortunately, it comes from the origins of the fashion system, which were that couturiers would create the look, and then the ideas would be copied, and that was kind of seen to be acceptable. That then you buy your cheaper version that is created by a streetwear label or a mainstream label, rather than the couturier. But the whole look was determined by these very high-end couturiers. So that's where we've got this difficult scenario that its tradition is to be about copying. But that again is something that we're very much changing through the education sector anyway. But also there have been cases where different designers or major brands have sued designers for copying. So there is a precedent. Precedents are being set to say this is not appropriate. So it is changing, yeah.
Buying clothes online can be a bit hit and miss sometimes. There's a bit of guesswork involved, a bit of getting the measuring tape out, mailing it back to them. How is online clothes shopping going to look like in the future?
That's a great one, because now we have companies that are setting up where you can digitally scan yourself, or you can go to a service that will scan you. But now you can scan off a tablet, and so you could scan yourself, enter that data into the computer, and then you could actually it could be totally customized to you, or at least at a minimum your body measurements are there for the company to then say this is the best size for you. So you can upload your data, and then they'll say, yes, this is from our garment data, this is the garment size that will fit you. It could be as well, it's possible to do now, but I'm not aware of any companies that do it, where they could take your avatar and they could then put their actual garment and see how it fits on you. You could actually then see what it looks like on you. So a virtual fit could occur. Then you say, yeah, that looks good on me, as you would in a conventional change room.
And that's similar to the technology that exists for spectacles right now as well.
Oh, I'm not aware of that.
Yes, you can go online, you can take a little picture of yourself and you can see what you look like, what a picture of you looks like wearing different glasses. So the future is already here, I guess.
I think so. For me, I'm pretty sure that's a lot simpler to do than to fit a three-dimensional garment. And I'm really excited by what that can do, because I think it's a horrendous thought to think that you're going to buy something just based on sizing, because the industry is notorious for not having sizing that's reliable. And then it's also saying, okay, here's a size 8. How many people in this world are at that standard size? It's
quite
a generic. Oh, totally. And a lot of
unless you get the tape measure out and you do the exact dimensions for each part of your body.
Yeah,
it's quite arbitrary.
And also, then what will happen is, from one designer to another, it will vary, and it's actually a good and a bad thing, and I'll explain that. The good side of it is that if everything is exactly this one generic size 8, then there's no chance of it all fitting you if you're, say, a size 8 top and a size 12 bottom, or we probably wouldn't be that big, or different, but it might be 8 and 10. So or your height is different. So your measurements are the same, but height is a big factor. So I know that if I go to one label, the designer is shorter. They'll fit me in the width around, but the sizing is kind of strange. The garment doesn't quite fit as well. I go to another designer I know, and she's taller, and the garments she creates are a much better fit to my body because of my height. So those variations in the interpretation of what is a size 8, 9, well, we don't have 9, sorry, 8, 10, 12, by different designers does help us as consumers to find something that fits us. But it also creates a huge problem if you go online and this company says it's a size 8 and you've got no way of predicting accurately that is going to fit you. And those companies that do online sales sites, they actually have a massive process of, taking the returns on the garments. I don't even know how they sustain their business, because there is a huge process that's involved in trying to keep the customer happy in terms of having something that fits in the return. And I hate that process. I've got a very large foot size and have tried to buy online, and if it comes in and it doesn't fit and you've got to send it back, post it back and get it, I don't know. I don't understand the appeal of online shopping personally.
You got more variety, but it's you can only really do it for accessories. So if you're getting like a necktie, it's very convenient. If you're getting like a shirt, then it's like you got to go in.
So I think that's where the technology is going to really change the landscape for online shopping. I especially can visualise and imagine the enjoyment of seeing your avatar being fitted in it and actually being able to see what it looks like on you, because something can fit but not really look right. And I know I've been guilty. Well, I don't know if it's even to say guilty, but I have purchased things that I just think I feel comfortable in it, but it's not exactly the most flattering thing. But I'll still buy it and wear it, and then I'll see myself in photos and think, oh, why do I think this is so good to wear? But I think that's where I was saying earlier that we're making more choices, and I think that there shouldn't be as much judgment around what we wear. I'm not a person that hopes I don't make judgment around what people wear. I think it's people's choice. I'm not sure if this is a good thing to talk about, but I remember when girls started to wear, low jeans and crop tops, and the muffin top became a big issue. And at first I was a bit, and I thought, well, that's me. I would never do it. But a lot of the girls were really confident. I thought, why not? What? It's not offensive. It's just not something that I would do. And it was about them still looking great, bit of flesh hanging out. That's okay. So I find it a fascinating field, and that's probably why I'm still in it at my age.
And finally, what's being done right here on Curtin to build the future of fashion and design?
Well, within our course, as I've said, we've got a lot of interest in sustainable fashion, but we have units and have had a unit called Sustainable Fashion since before it became trendy. And we've got technology and dress. So we have really strong foundations for the students to engage in these issues around fashion. I think we're fortunate that we've got these foundations in terms of sustainability and technology that are units that can evolve. They're not locked into a particular perspective, and I think they're going to be ongoing issues that will sustain our course and hopefully continue to create graduates that are finding a place and relevance are going to be relevant to the industry.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on. Thank you very much for joining us, Anne.
Oh, thank you, David. It's been a real pleasure.
And thanks for braving it in this appalling weather as well.
Not a problem.
And I think we'll leave it at that. You've been listening to The Future Of, a podcast powered by Curtin University. If you have any questions about any of the topics we've raised, or if you want to learn more, you can have a look at the show notes or you can get in touch. Bye for now.